Okay, welcome to Detroit in Black and White. It's a Wednesday night here. We've got a light crew. We've got Jim Nardone from the former police chief from Trenton, and I'm Allan Lengel, co-founder of Deadline Detroit. Adolph Mongo is under the weather, and Vanessa Moss, we've got a missing person alert for her. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening this week. I mean, it's happening at such a fast clip, everything. And, even when you try to ignore, like I'm trying to peel back on all my watching of cable and all that kind of stuff. And suddenly, oh, there we go. We got Moss. And so I've been trying to peel back a little bit on watching all this stuff because I just watched way too much and overdose, but you can't help but get the news flashes on your phone of this person being appointed and that person being appointed. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about some of the appointments, including Betsy DeVos, who is hoping to get Secretary of Education. So, Jim, what's your any outrage, any observations this week?
Well, I think I have a little bit of an outrage, and I've been hearing a lot lately. And what I'm concerned with is Trump was elected president. They should follow the process that every other president followed. No, there's no need for recess appointments. Let these folks, everybody that he's decided should get a cabinet position, go in front of the Senate, and if they pass muster, then they should be voted on. I don't like the idea of it. It just sends a bad message to the American public when you're already trying to circumvent the system and the process.
And what do you think of some of the selections? I mean, it seems like a selection for the next Apprentice show. It's just sort of a cast of characters. And, we were talking before the show started, Marco Rubio, you say, all right, that's, you may not like him, but he's qualified. And then you have some of the others who are questionable. What's your read on that?
Have y'all started the show already?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, we saw you apply some something.
They saw it on the air.
Yeah. So.
Oh my goodness,
my guess,
everybody.
Sorry, I thought you were just liberated. I thought you were just like, who cares?
I don't believe that Matt Gaetz is going to get out of the committee. I think there's going to be some pushback from the Republicans, and if they have the courage, Matt Gaetz probably will not be confirmed, is my guess. Pete Hegseth, I guess, inside the Trump team, they're concerned that he lied to them in the process, and they may be looking for another guy there. I think that's, I'm not sure, some kind of, is it Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth?
Yeah.
I think those two guys are kind of long shots right now. I'm not sure. What do you think, Vanessa?
Listen, I think that I have been so out of touch.
That's the way to
so
be.
Many people, what I mean by that is, listen, the guy has his picks. Let them go through the process. It is what it is, right? So those are my thoughts. I don't think I agree with you about Gaetz. I don't think he's going to get out. There's some questions about, it was somebody else that I read that they have some questions about. I mean, the guy is with the WWE over the Department of Education. Are you serious?
His wife. Yeah.
His wife, whatever, same difference. Then you have, who was that? Elon Musk, which I think is going to be that. Listen, my thing is let him do what he does. At the end of the day, the buck stops with him. If it's a big failure, it's his failure, right?
Yeah, but I think the, who would be the heroes in this are some of the Republicans who will just stand up and say no, that Matt Gaetz, no, this person, no. And let him go through the process, maybe. But I agree with Jim. Matt Gaetz probably won't make it out of committee.
No, I agree with him there. I agree with that.
I mean, there is a process there. But, when they start threatening the Senate and say, if you vote against our picks, we're gonna primary you. Next one in, Elon Musk is going to fund that. I think that may have come from Trump, but I could be wrong. but it's not the way you have checks and balances in government. I mean, it's not that there aren't arm twisting that goes on Capitol Hill. I mean, Lyndon Johnson was notorious for figuring out how to do that. But, actually Joe Biden it was pretty skillful in navigating the Hill. But
right.
I think, yeah, it's a clown show, though. It's kind of like there are people, the American people want government to move forward. They're tired of all the crazy shit. They actually want, both sides want government to work, and you're not really, doing that when you're appointing people like this they're just distractions in a show. It's when people who were, it was interesting, some of the people who were interviewed on the Trump campaign who just said, just so much chaos, we can't take it much longer. And, what we have is chaos, and we're going to have more chaos. And I think it's up to some of the responsible adults in the Senate to say, no, let's get business. Let's get to business here.
So I have a question. I want to turn it to something that hits home, because I think we could all agree that the politics is local. How much of this is going to have an impact on the state of Michigan, and particularly the city of Detroit, the city of Trenton? What's going on in DC? How much of an impact do you think it's going to have?
I think immigration, I think we're going to see a lot of rounding up of over time. We're going to see, and we're going to, it's going to be, some of it's going to happen in Hamtramck, which is a lot of immigrants. And I'm sure some of the people's papers aren't up to date, or, we're going to see rounding up in this community. And I don't know, that's one thing. I think in, the auto industry, I think we're going to see an impact somehow with tariffs. And, who knows how that's going to impact the employment here in Detroit, where, there still are a lot of people employed either by the auto companies directly or through parts companies or research or whatever. I think, there's a lot at stake here, but I don't know.
What do you think, Jim? And I have another follow-up question after that.
We had Sheriff Washington on. We've had the deputy mayor, who's now the current police chief in Detroit, and they talked about a lot of the programs that they're involved with in the city of Detroit and Wayne County that will maybe negatively affect it, and that's just cash, right? Those are grants. Those kind of things may become fewer for the city of Detroit, and I think that that's a negative. As far as small towns, I'm not sure how a city like Trenton will be affected.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's decisions that are made, look in the farming communities. I know in the 90s, there was a lot of rebellious people when the Oklahoma bombing happened. I happened to be up there in the Thumb reporting for the Detroit News, and we saw a lot of angry farmers whose farms, the government foreclosed on their loans. So a lot, I think we don't realize just how impactful what's happening there is happening here. It has an impact. I mean, look, Secretary of State. I mean, you have what's his name, the former governor of Arkansas, who's going to be the ambassador. Huckabee. We're going to have the Secretary of Defense, and they're in the Arab community and the Jewish community. I mean, people are very interested in Middle East policy, and you have Huckabee saying there is no such thing as Palestine. Basically Israel should take the West Bank, which is a recipe for a lifelong disaster. I think we feel it in different ways.
Hey, Marlon, we appreciate the comment. My only concern with you with this, Marlon, is that there's a process, and trying to go around a process sends a bad message. Let these people stand on their merit. Let them get through the committee. Let them vote on them. They still have, the Republicans will have the majority. So if they're confirmed, they will be confirmed. But my concern is with the process more than, he has his right to pick whoever he wants. He won the election.
Absolutely. My next question to you guys is this, and even to our viewing audience, how much of an impact do you think this will have on our state senator and the person or the people that represent us in Congress, how effective do you think they will be? How effective in terms of bringing things back to the state of Michigan, and then in the case of the Congress people, bringing things back for their respective districts, like Rashida Tlaib, John James, so on. I mean, what's his name? Sharif Thanadar. What do you guys think?
That's a tough question. I think we don't. I don't know that we all know enough about what Sri may be bringing back and what. I mean, look, I think Alyssa Slotkin is a very able politician. I think she's got
So you
qualifications.
trying to say you don't think Sri is a good politician?
Well, I don't know. No, you know what? Shri's a mystery to me. He's kind of an odd duck, and it's not like he's a bad guy, but I don't really know where he's coming from. It's kind of hard to figure out. But look, he's been he's been victorious. He's got that was his second term in Congress already.
Yeah, but I mean, really,
Fadoff was here.
I don't know if but my thing is it really, is that a good thing? If you really don't know where he's coming from, is that really good? I mean, he represents the district that you and I live in. Is that a good thing? What you say, Jim?
Well, he's a Democrat, and we have the Democratic coalition from Michigan. We always have had the Congress. Congress is primarily Democrats, and we have 2 U.S. senators. When you get back to more of a state level, the Democrats 2 years ago took control of the Michigan House, and they've lost it. They lost in 2024. So. Right. When we get to 2025, we'll have more Republicans in charge in the House. But I think the state Senate and the governor's office obviously remains in the hands of the Democrats. So there'll be very, very little change there.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was interesting with Betsy. I was mentioning before, Betsy DeVos, who is obviously a very wealthy person who resigned. She was Secretary of Education under Trump. She resigned on January 7th, and she wrote a whole long letter, which I published on Deadline Detroit. I put a link to it, just saying how disgusted she was with January 6th, and she blames Trump for a lot of his rhetoric. And then she comes back and says, I want to be Secretary of Education to help, disband Secretary of Education and get basically vouchers for private schools where she had, I think people see Trump as a vessel to get what they want because he doesn't really care. He's not a guy who's an ideologue. She is. Her and her husband.
Let's talk about this for a minute. And good evening. I think it's Jimmy Zimzam. I think that's what he said.
And Derek.
And hey,
Jimmy
Derek.
Zimzam.
But listen, we have talked time and time again about the state of education in the United States, right? And so you have a president, now president-elect, but he was elected years ago as the president. He wanted to do something different. He wanted to do something different to turn things around. What is wrong with that? Because clearly what has been going on, we have talked about this time and time again. It ain't working. It's broke.
I agree.
So what's wrong with someone saying, hey, let's try something different?
Yeah, but just the word different isn't the answer necessarily. If you say it's like Obamacare, where people say we want to get rid of Obamacare. Okay, great. Obamacare could always be improved upon. There's the middle class are still paying way too much. The wealthy, it doesn't matter what they pay for healthcare. The people of lower income who get Obamacare get a pretty good pay a pretty good price. They probably some like $90, $100 a month, which is great for healthcare. So could there be improvements? Yes, but you can't just scrap something without a replacement. And so when you talk about the Department of Education, they say, well, the idea is that everything should be at state level, but we see in Florida where they're mandating that they talk about teach slavery, that slavery was a positive thing, that there's a balance there. It should be insulting to all Americans. And it's like, I don't know. The Department of Education also funds a lot of educational things that could get wiped out that aren't going to be funded at the state level, but people are getting federal
Well,
funds.
even with the funds, though, Alan, we have talked about this time. Listen, people in other countries are outperforming our kids. Listen, last week we had someone on the show. Last Saturday we had someone on the show that is now on the board for Detroit Public School Community District, right? And we had a long conversation about that. We talked about how these kids are graduating from high school, can't even fill out a doggone job application. What we did talk about is how they end up getting in college, right? And then they have to take these remedial classes, things that they should have learned in the earlier part of their education.
Right.
They're doing this in college and taking in all this debt. So my thing is this: if you can do something different and it is successful, then why not? Doing the same thing, funding. You said they fund a lot of Department of Education funds a lot of wonderful programs. That's true.
Right.
But we want our kids educated, right? It's not happening.
But
it's not happening.
But what's going to change? You get rid of the Department of Education. So you say, I mean, the state still has a lot of control, and the schools are still, screwed up. The city, like the Board of Education, has control over the Detroit school system, and it's screwed up. I mean, there needs to be a revolution in education, but just the fact of saying different and we're going to get rid of this, where the other thing is that Betsy DeVos is really pushing for vouchers for private schools, which is, there's an argument to be made there. But at the same time, what are we doing to our public schools? We're degrading them. I mean, where people in the city
They're
of
not
Detroit,
working though, Alan.
well,
They're
what
not
do we?
working.
Well,
And I
so
used to work in the system.
so the
You
answer
work in the
is
system.
what?
We have a lot of viewers that work in the system,
So
and
the
then we
answer is
tell
what?
you it's
But
not working.
But what's the answer when you say
That's my point.
it's not working? Well, let's find. If somebody comes forward and says, "Here's a solution," it's not like let's just give it to the states. That's not an answer to the poor educational system that we have. There's no specific.
Saying let the states figure it out. You
Well,
said that's not the answer.
Nobody's stopping the states from figuring it out. It's what's the issue really is that I don't know. To me, it's bothersome when I see some of the education stuff going on in Florida being mandated, and that you can't talk about this.
Let's talk about Michigan, because this is Detroit Black and White. What
Well,
about the education system
well,
here?
Marlon has the answer. Marlon has the answer, and I'm sitting back here listening, and the parents need to participate in their children's education. They need to teach them to read and write before they get to school. They need to work with their kids. They can't put it all on the system, and that's what they've done in the last 20 or 30 years.
Well, you know what, Jim? I would agree with you. My grandparents, my grandfather, my mother's parents, my grandfather didn't make it past the 4th grade, but guess what? He could read, write, and do arithmetic. Okay. My grandmother didn't get past the 7th grade, right? My mom got pregnant with me. She was a high school dropout. She read to me every day. I started by the time I got in school, I knew my colors. I knew how to count. I knew how to do those things. Parents are being parents. I don't think you can regulate parents being parents. I think there's attempts to, if your kid's not going to school, then we're going to drag you into court and all of that. But at the end of the day, it starts at home.
I agree. You know what? I agree with that, but it's almost a very middle class view that we need to have parents where we see there's absentee parents. There's parents who have no interest in they don't keep track of where their children are. They don't check. They don't say, "Hey, do you have homework today? You're not going out." We don't. That's a very it's a nice way, and we. It sounds like we all came from a background where we had parents who were really concerned, but I was substitute taught before. Mm-hmm. I've seen where parents are just not involved. They just don't care. They're, whatever. Some people aren't meant to be parents, really. And,
Yeah, we have one viewer who says, do the parents really have time when they really are struggling to try to survive?
Right.
Sure, that's a good point. I mean, that's the counterpoint to Marlon's point. But
Right. So how do you reconcile the two? Because I would say, I mean, I know things have evolved and things are really different, but I just use my family as an example. They still had to work. They weren't middle class. They still had to work, but they found time to make sure that the kids were involved in some kind of way, at least had the basics. These kids now, I mean, it's just crazy. And now we have access to more than what we used to have access to, right?
Yeah.
You could Google every doggone thing.
Yeah. True. We need to take a commercial break. So,
Okay.
Teresa, you want to spin the disc?
In the heart of Detroit, Bruce Simpson. Our city ombudsman and his team are dedicated to making your voice heard. The City of Detroit Ombudsman is a liaison between the City of Detroit and all persons who have a complaint or inquiry into the operation of a city department or the conduct of a city employee. The Ombudsman works as an independent oversight to provide individuals with an opportunity of giving a confidential avenue to address complaints. You can reach the Ombudsman's office at 313-224-6000 or email us at ombudsmandetroitmi.gov. You can also visit us at the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center. For more information, go to www.detroitmi.gov and type in Ombudsman. We are here to help. In Detroit, we are all one team. When you win, we all win.
I love teaching others because when I first got into the healthcare field, people overlooked me. I was really a ninth grade dropout who had no education, but I was determined to make something of myself for my baby. So Motor City matched the funds I put into my business. They awarded me $20,000. So now I'm able to focus solely on first step healthcare training and give it everything it needs. All because I live in Detroit.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
We're back, Detroit in black and white. If you're watching, we want to thank you for watching. You can catch us on all social media platforms. We're here every Wednesday evening from 8:30 to 9 p.m., 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m., every Friday, 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m., and every Saturday morning from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Thank you for watching Detroit in black and white. Like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share. And please excuse me for putting my lipstick on during the show. I had no idea that I was on.
I was like, this woman is liberated. She's like,
Well, can we address a couple of points that are questions that Derek
Right.
had one asked if Shree brings home any bacon, and I don't know if he brings home any bacon, but if he's doing it, it's secondary, because if you turn on C-SPAN and you see the congressman, he's usually following the leadership around the floor of the House there in Washington, D.C. And the second question was about genocide. Unfortunately, your tax dollars may be spent differently going forward, but that's a bigger problem, I think, than the last president or this president is going to be able to resolve.
so you want to read this last comment?
Yeah. Jimmy Zimzam said, I teach college at a community college in Texas. I'm worried about the young people I teach. They are very stressed at times, hard for them to cope at times with life. Wow.
Well, yeah, look, it's
I wish I
particularly.
could follow up and ask him if those students that he's teaching at a community college, they're stressed at times about life. What are the particular issues? I'd like to know what that is.
I think a lot of it's trying to get ahead. They're struggling to get an education and trying to make a life for themselves, and the money's just not there. It just seems like there's a big gap. There's kids that have the money and they're making it through, but at a community college level, those are people that are struggling to get an education and get out there in the workforce and make a decent living. And I
I,
understand.
I think at a community college, I think the majority are not living on any campus. They're probably living at home or, with their parents or
Oh wow.
somebody else, and they're probably working. And there's a lot of juggling that goes on there. But
So yeah, Jimmy
yeah,
says that is money, family crossing the border daily. Wow.
yeah.
Wow. So I guess that goes back to it's something you said earlier, and I didn't get a chance to ask you, Alan. You said that and thanks, Marlon. He said he feels sorry for inner city kids. But Alan, you said that you think that there's going to be a lot of people deported. Those people who live in Hamtramck, a lot of people that there's going to be a lot of people
A
leaving
lot
here
of
in the United
immigrants.
States and
Sure.
going to
Yeah.
a lot of immigrants. Is that a bad thing?
Well, I mean, I guess, you look at a legal standpoint, but it's like, look, our economy, I mean, runs on a lot of immigrants taking jobs I mean, look, if you go to a hotel, really anywhere in America, chances are a lot of the workers there are, English is not their first language. And who knows how many. So you want to deport those people, and everyone else says, I don't want those jobs. We got people in during the campaign, we had people from the United Farm Workers Union, and they were knocking door to door, and they were saying people are demonizing us. We're feeding America.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Michigan, during the season, whatever, blueberry, cherry picking, whatever. There's probably some people who are undocumented who are working here. Is it, are they violating the law? Yes. Should we, I guess one of the key things right now is that, I mean, Trump's borders are whatever says we're going to focus on people with criminal records who are here illegally, which who can argue with that? But, when you start going through communities and maybe, tearing apart some families and saying you're here, okay, you were born here, but you came here illegally. There've been, our immigration laws are so screwed up, and Congress has done so little to address it. I mean, look, we should have secure borders. We don't want porous borders. But we also, the reality is a lot of immigrants are taking jobs and helping this economy. And we should find ways, if we can get them here, if they don't have criminal records, we should find ways to give them a path to citizenship, or
So is
at
that
least a
what he's
green
actually
card.
trying to do? Is that what he's trying to force Congress hands, the legislature's hand, and saying, "Hey, they need to come here, but they need to come here the right way"? Is that do you think that's what he's trying to do? Is
Well,
force their hand?
idealistically, but Carl Malinga put it best, I think, when we had him on the show a few weeks ago. He said, if I was in Congress, he goes, I'll propose 8,000 temporary immigration judges to process. People are coming here seeking, they're coming here, they're escaping countries where there's drug gangs, where people are getting killed, and they're just trying to make a living here. So they're seeking asylum. They're fearful. So some are legitimate claims. I mean, the law has been set up where you can get asylum here, but some are just saying, they're saying asylum just for the sake of it. So Carl Malinga is saying there's only 600 immigration judges. We need to have 8,000 to process them, and those who are here illegally, deport them. But our system is just, it's both sides working against each other, because, particularly this campaign, it was just a political. I think Trump sabotaged that bill. Was the bill the end all? No, but it was a step forward in the right direction. We all have to, I think what everyone was sick of the campaign is just all the bullshit, and people just want people to govern. We elect people to govern, and we're not seeing enough of that. So,
Jim, you sitting over there quiet. You didn't say a word. You just let Alan just go
I'm ready.
on and on and on and on and on. Yes.
First, hello to my friend Jan, who's watching and texting me today. She's enjoying the show, and thank you for watching, Jan.
Good. Thank you.
This is a situation, right? You have grandiose plans that they're going to remove 30, 20, 30, 40 million people from this country. It will never happen. All right. I was in law enforcement nearly 30 years. They're going to target the worst of the worst. And if they can get those criminals, I'll call them criminals, out of our country, whether it's 100,000, 200,000, or 400,000, that's going to be about the extent of it in 4 years. If you think they're going to remove 10 million people in 4 years, it's I won't say it won't happen. It's very unlikely.
Even what you're talking about, 400,000 is a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot of people.
You know what? You know how labor intensive it is to pinpoint those people, find where they live, arrest them, deport them.
Yes,
that's one person. You need a whole posse of marshals and immigration workers to do that. It's a lot.
And they have due process. So if there's 10,000 people that you can remove in a year, 15,000, it'll be a success.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to get to that other whatever list there is behind it.
Well, it is 9:01, guys. I know I was a few minutes late, but it's 9:01. That means that we need to wrap it up. We're wrapping up Detroit in Black and White. We want to tell everybody that has watched this edition of Detroit Black and White, our midweek edition, thank you so much. You can catch all of our previous episodes on DetroitInBlackandWhite.com. You can catch our show on all social media platforms, and you will be able to see us again on Friday. Thank you so much, Allan. Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you so much, Lady T. And thank you for all the people that have watched tonight. And we want you to spread the word and tell everybody to like, subscribe, and share.
They make the show tonight. They made the show tonight.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And Jimmy Zimzam, what a great name.
Yeah, I love it.